So now that we've talked a little bit about some of the things that are involved in caring for animals, we'll move on to talking about daily care and management. What are some of the things involved in daily care and management? Something that we provide daily for our animals that we think about is feed and water. Another thing that we provide daily but is housing and facilities. And then lastly, we keep track of our animals with identification daily. Why do we have identification? What is one of the reasons? Well, we want to make sure that this is truly your animal. This is where you can provide proof of ownership if for some reason your animal gets out or you lose track of it. Next, it allows you to record things like medications. It also is a good management tool to use if you have a lot of livestock, or even if you're just trying to keep track of one animal. It can be a good idea so that you can keep good records. Things such as weaning weights, their average daily gain, and much more. Some types of identification that we can list are, you see brisket tag and ankle band, but some more are a tag, a tattoo, brands, ear notches. There's a picture of what the brisket tag looks like and the ankle band. And the top list is permanent, while the bottom list is temporary. And so if they rip out a tag, you'll have to put another one in. But ear notches they'll always have. There's also electronic identification. And if you notice the brisket tag and ankle band, those are often used for dairy animals. A type of identification that's commonly used is ear notching with swine. The pig's right ear denotes the litter number, and the left ear identifies their pig number. So again, their right ear is their litter number, and their left ear is their pig number. Each ear is divided into 4 quadrants. You start in the lower bottom quadrant closest to the pig's ear, and that notch signifies 1, or that one quadrant. The next quadrant signifies 3. That top furthest quadrant signifies 9. And then the top closest to the pig's head signifies 27. There's also one more notch that can be made, and that's the 81. So in each of our 4 quadrants, they can have 2 notches, which would be up to 9 notches in an ear, which is pretty rare, but they could have that many. So they can have 2 notches here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and 1 here. So again, in the left ear, the numbering system is similar. There's the 1s, the 3s, and the 9s, and we would never get any higher. So the highest number that you can have in a litter is, or a highest litter number that you can have, a producer can have, is 161. And then the highest over here is larger than any other litter numbers are going to be. We'll show you an example of what that looks like. This ear, there's a notch in the 9 quadrant, and there's a notch in the 3 quadrant. So that's 9 plus 3, and that's 12. In this one, there's 2 notches in the 1 quadrant, so that means that ear is 2. So this pig's number is 12-2, 12 being their litter and 2 being its pig number. Alright, so again, those things that are involved in our daily care and management are the feeding of the animal. Some key things that we want to remember when we're feeding our animal is always to read the label. We also want to use high quality feeds and make sure they have plenty of water. When you're reading a feed label, all purchased feeds that you get from a feed store will have a list of their ingredients, as well as a feed analysis. And then most commonly they tell you how much to feed your animal. When you're reading a feed label, some of your feeds can be medicated, and those feeds will have more information. They'll tell you which animals it can legally be fed to, which is important. What type of medication is in the feed. Warnings and withdrawal time of feed, and again, we'll talk about withdrawal here in a moment. But we want to make sure that we read all the labels on our feeds so we know that when these feeds are medicated, how we're supposed to properly give it to our animal. Okay? So we've mentioned withdrawal time a couple of times, and what it means is the time from when an animal receives a drug, and that drug could come in the form of injections or feed, or even sometimes you'll put it in their water, to when it can be harvested, or to when that animal can be slaughtered without having that drug residue. And so the residue that we're talking about is the portion of the medication that remains in the body's animal tissue. So it's important that we give it the full withdrawal time for that medication to clear the animal system before we send it to be produced so that we can get the meat or the milk from it. And that way we're ensuring that it's for sure safe and healthy. All right, when we talk about high quality feeds, it doesn't necessarily mean expensive. We just want to make sure that it's meeting the nutritional needs of our food, of our animal, that it's clean, free of wire, that we keep it enclosed when it's not being used. That also will keep it clear of manure, things like mold. And then properly stored so that we keep it dry and clean, to avoid some of those things we talked about above, and that rodents and other animals can't get into it, and then it's not too old. A feed that's probably over 2 months old should not be used, and so if it's older than that, you should consider disposing of it and getting new feed. All right, water. Always, when we're talking about water, we want to provide plenty of fresh, clean water. So an animal can die within 1 to 3 days without water. And that doesn't mean that 3 days. It means that if sometimes it's hot and the conditions are right and your animal doesn't have water for just 1 day, that it can die. Even a shortage of water will cause your animal to have lower performance, or it may not gain weight correctly, or perhaps it could get sicker easily. Okay, so please complete the feeding and or watering activity, or possibly the reading a feed label activity.